Today I'm in the county of Wiltshire on the outskirts of the village of Chapmanslade, and I'm at a crossroad. And this crossroad has a very sinister name, the Dead Maid's Corner. But why is it called this? The Dead Maid's Corner, or Dead Maid's Cross, does pose a few questions. We can obviously make the assumption that it has an association with a woman that died young, but how did she die, and why is she not buried in a churchyard? The cars that drive by this road will likely have no idea of the story I'm about to tell you. But you see, long ago there was a farm in this area, and the farmer had a very beautiful daughter. It wasn't long before she found herself a suitor, and so she started to court this man, and she grew quite fond of him. But it seems that she grew more fond of the attention that she was receiving, because before too long she had another suitor. And this second young man had a fine black dog as his faithful companion. The farmer's daughter grew to like him too, so she started courting him. The problem was, she didn't break things off with the first suitor. She kept on seeing him, and would see each man on alternate days, ensuring that they didn't find out about each other. She was having fun, and wanted to see how long she could keep things going for. Naturally, with little regard for the feelings of each man. In small villages though, keeping a secret like this is an impossible task. The two men found out about what the farmer's daughter was up to. The first suitor challenged the man with the dog, his rival, to a duel. And so the two angry men met here on this hill at dawn, alongside the black dog and the farmer's daughter, who wanted to see firsthand which of her lovers would be killed, and which would go on to be her husband. The two men, pistols in hand, took their paces, aimed the pistols, and fired. The man that owned the dog was shot, and it was fatal. He fell to the ground and died instantly. The first suitor, the victor, let out a loud sigh of relief. He'd won, he'd slain the competition, and now the beautiful farmer's daughter belonged to him. He smiled and started to walk towards his lady, expecting to be embraced and have his happy ever after. But the black dog, seeing his master lying dead, let out a dreadful howl. His best friend, his oldest companion, was no more. The dog turned to the man that had killed him, ran towards him and pounced, taking him to the ground. The man attempted out of instinct to fire his pistol, but of course he'd already discharged his shot. The beast savaged him, tearing out his throat, and avenged his beloved master. He then ran off into the woods next to the hill. The farmer's daughter screamed. It dawned on her what she'd actually done. She was overcome with terror at the violence that had unfolded before her on this hill. Yesterday, she had two suitors, the most handsome men in the parish, and now she was alone. No one knows how she did it, but the maid took her own life. It was a suicide, and as such, she was buried at the boundaries of the parish. The dog made its home in these woods, which became known as the Black Dog Woods, and are still known by that name to this day. A body was buried at the crossroad to make sure that her spirit could never rise from the grave. The hill on which the duel took place is now known as Black Dog Hill. Next to the woods there's a Black Dog Cottage, and there's a farm in this area too, at the foot of the hill known as Black Dog Farm, now a bed and breakfast. Very possible that this is the farm that belonged to the dead woman's family. It's an old Grade 2 listed building, and I can imagine the entitled woman not wanting to have to walk far from her home to watch the duel, and so recommending the hill as the duel site. It's said that the dog has haunted the woods ever since, and the surrounding area, the back lanes and the crossroads. He's known to have two large red glowing eyes, and whoever sees him is said to die within a year. It's on lonely country lanes like this one, on the outskirts of Black Dog Woods, that you might catch a glimpse of the spectral hound. Strange activity and sightings of ghosts and phantoms and the supernatural are often associated with places of transition, borders, boundaries and the like. Black dog sightings are generally heavily linked to crossroads. The fact that the events of this story are associated with a crossroad and occurs on a boundary, that being the border of Wiltshire and Somerset, perhaps gives an explanation as to why the dog continues to haunt this area, if you believe such things. There is another version of the story, a story that seems to appear later. It suggests that there was a black dog here, and it was owned by a highwayman that would wait atop Black Dog Hill. He trained his dog to leap up onto the stagecoaches that would pass nearby and attack the driver by savaging his neck. The vehicle would halt, and the highwayman would get close to the coach and rob the passengers. He was eventually shot, and the dog's fate was unknown. Perhaps the black dog from the first story found a new owner. Perhaps the highwayman befriended the ghostly black dog years later. Or perhaps they are just unconnected stories. I personally prefer the first. I like to think that my Ava would jump up and avenge me if I was slain in a duel. But that might be wishful thinking. Ava, would you avenge my death? Would you avenge my death? Would you do it? As usual, a big thanks to my patrons that make it possible for me to travel to different parts of Britain and film on location. There's lots more stories to come from Cambridgeshire, Dorset and Somerset, so be sure to subscribe so as not to miss out. And I shall see you all in the next video.